no education, no connections, nowhere to live, and we moved back to the mainland US, to the Southwest. But before I did that, I prepared myself. I did something very smart. I ordered a phone book, Yellow Pages, from the city I was moving to. I found all of the Fortune 500 companies who had offices there, sales offices. I picked out the top 50, and I didn't mail them resumes. I put together a really slick trifold brochure, marketing brochure, and it said, Frank Rumbauskas, sales professional. And I didn't realize it at the time, but this was my first quantum shift, because up to that point, I had been chasing and I had been pursuing, just like in the introduction, I was saying, do you want this, do you want this, do you want this? Well, instead of saying, do you want Frank, instead of sending out a resume saying, this is my experience, this is what I want, this is my salary requirement, I put together a slick brochure that said sales professional. I said, this is what I can offer you. And my phone rang off the hook. So the bad news is I move, I've got people look at never pursue again, and they say, well, Frank, don't you have to go after the things you want? You can't just sit back and do nothing. And people look at my book, Never Cold Call Again, and they say, Frank, you can't just not do anything. You can't sit back. And that's correct. There are two sides. You can't chase, you can't beg for approval, you can't pander. You can't be like the dog chasing its tail. Because what happens in business? We chase, we get into this endless cycle, we go after the things we want, like the dog chasing its tail. At the end of the day, we're tired, we feel like we've worked, we feel satisfied because we accomplished something, but then there's nothing to show for it. So that's the problem with chasing. The other side is this idea, you hear people say, location in business is everything, and if you have the right location and open up, then people will just come to you. Well, that's the other side. There's being too proactive or reactive, and then there's being non-active, doing absolutely nothing. Right in the middle is something called cat theory. And I had been using cat theory unknowingly. I didn't know what it was called, but I had been using it successfully as a salesperson. Who in the room is a cat owner, or who's been around cats or has had a cat? What happens if you try to approach a cat? If you do the direct approach and say, come here, what do most cats do? They ignore you. They run away. Well, if you completely ignore the cat and do nothing, the non-active approach, usually that doesn't work either. The way you bait a cat to come over or to sit with you is give it a little bit of attention, give it a couple of meows, maybe a little pet, and walk away, and then the cat will think about it and it'll come back. So what we do in business, what we do in sales, what we do in life, personal, love, otherwise, is you don't chase and pander and pursue and go around in a circle. You don't do nothing, because that will not work either. You use cat theory. You put a little bit of enticement, a little bit of bait out there, and then once you've identified yourself as a powerful party who can fulfill needs, then you will attract those others to you. Then you'll be the powerful person in that dance of power.